Now, more than 18,000 law enforcement officers will be deployed to KwaZulu-Natal ahead of the local government elections, of course, tomorrow. This after protests flared up at Mistake Farm in uMzinto. Yesterday, 2 people and 9 police officers were wounded during an altercation between police and community members who were protesting against their councillor candidates. Now, let's get a national picture. We're joined on the line by National Spokesperson Brigadier Vish Naidoo. Brigadier, thank you so much for your time this afternoon, and thank you so much for joining us.
Very good afternoon, and thank you for this opportunity.
Now, Vish, give us a clear picture in terms of what the SAPS has prepared for as we run up to the elections. There's a couple of hours left, about 16 hours left before we see millions of South Africans, in fact, heading to the polls across the country. We know already there have been some incidences of violence in some voting stations, particularly in KZN.
Well, yeah, thank you once again. We have obviously prepared for any eventuality. I would just like to start off by saying that this is not the first election that the Joint Security Forces have delivered successfully over the years. We have delivered many national elections, provincial and local government elections. We've also delivered other major events successfully. So basically the approach has not changed that much. Although we do treat each of these events on its own merit, we have our plannings revolving around what the crime pattern analysis has to show, what our intelligence report has to show, and we have prepared ourselves according to those reports. But what I must say is that planning for this particular local government election started a while back through a steering committee. We are now in the implementation phase. So we've deployed all our personnel throughout the country. We have mobilized even the support staff, police officers that generally were behind desks. They are now part of the boots on the ground, policing the areas that we've identified as hotspot areas around the country. Also, we'll have dedicated police officers at the polling stations. Remember, we have categorized our polling stations in terms of the low, medium to high risk, and we're deploying there accordingly. And we haven't provided numbers of police officers for obvious reasons, for security reasons. But we have taken those, as I said, any eventuality into consideration. What we have done over and above, like you've seen with this incident in uMzinto yesterday, we have deployed our reserve forces there when the situation started to become increasingly untenable, and we were able to, through the deployment of those reserve forces, we were able to contain and bring the area back to stability. So this is a demonstration of the plans that we have put in place to ensure an environment conducive for a free and fair election.
Now, talk to us about certain areas. We know that, earlier on we heard from Police Minister Brigadier saying that several areas and voting stations have been earmarked as hotspots, over 300 in fact. Talk to us about some of these that were not on that list. We know that, for instance, uMzinto, in KZN, where yesterday there was a violence. In fact, there was intimidation. People were not allowed to cast their votes in about 2 voting stations in the area. We know that police were there. But it's one of the areas that was not on that list, that was not identified. So speak to us about the rationale of just some of those that are on the list. And if anything, did police leave out some intentionally, or was that just an oversight from your part?
Well, remember, if areas are not, I'm not confirming that area was or was not part of the hotspot areas. I'm not sure how you got that information, but nevertheless, just to say generically, if areas that are not on our hotspot list, it doesn't mean that we are not keeping observation on those areas, and that we have not put plans and preparations in place to attend to any eventuality in those areas. So if you say uMzinto was not part of the list of hotspot areas, the response to what had happened there, given that it was not a so-called hotspot areas, the response has been so quick and so formidable that we were able to contain the situation as quickly as possible is again a demonstration that if an area is not part of our hotspot areas, we are able to respond in time. So the fact that we have categorized areas low, medium, and high risk, it doesn't mean that a low risk area is going to be left unattended, and so too is a medium risk. They're going to be attended, and then we will use our reserve forces to augment the already deployed security forces in those areas should the need arise. And this is what we've done with uMzinto and so forth.
Very quickly, Vish, I need to wrap with you, but very quickly, in a couple of seconds, talk to me about just how ready you are for any eventualities across the country. Of course, KZN, not only the only province that you are concentrating on.
Well, we have our joint planning meetings 3 times a day. I've just come off one planning meeting now, and we are very ready and confident that this election, like the past elections, is going to be delivered and it's successfully, and we're going to meet or exceed the expectations of our voters and the nation in general.
All right, thank you so much, Brigadier Vish Naidoo, just giving us an update there in terms of the SAPS's readiness.